dad was military. I had an uncle in the two uncles in the military. Military's in our family. And then I enlisted in the Navy within a couple of months and made a mistake and got married. He had a very bad drug problem and he was very abusive. And after 3.5 years of trying to make it work, I decided it was time to go home. I met my second husband in 2011. 2 weeks later, I called him to let him know I'm pregnant, and he told me I was a fling. It's been hard. There's nothing really else that you can really just put into words to describe it. I was massively depressed. I couldn't function. My youngest son was almost born, literally almost born, in the homeless shelter in Mattoon. For me, my kids are everything. It's all I ever wanted to be was a mom. And first 25 years of my life, I was told I could never have children. I have 4 children. I've been homeless twice with children. Just because you're homeless doesn't mean that you're a bum. Doesn't mean you're worthless. Lutheran Child and Family Services have helped me out so much. They were able to get me into an apartment pretty quick, and they helped furnish it. They gave me a welcome care package that had a bunch of soaps and shampoos and food and dishes. And the LCFS program, my caseworker with them, has even been taking me to my doctor's appointments, my kids' doctor's appointments. She was there the day my daughter was born, who happened to have been a month early. This program and this service, the LCFS, is amazing. I don't know where I'd be without them right now. I'm glad that I was able to be here. She could be born somewhere safe. You can't put into words on how to thank them. There's no words that can describe how much they mean to somebody. Without their programs and their help, there'd be a lot more families out on the street.
So the day I graduated from high school, I left and went to St. Louis. I lived there, I guess, about 3 years, and then I met my husband, and he had just come back from Vietnam, but we got married, and we've now been married 46 years. My husband lost his job, and at that particular time, I had just been working like for, a couple dollars an hour down here at the local restaurant, but then I lost that job. My husband lost his job, so it got to be really hard on how we were going to make ends meet. Rather than sit around and worry about it, that's when I decided to go to the food pantry in Hardin. If I needed a can of vegetables or whatever I needed, I wasn't being put down for it. People can get more from the food pantry or from Lutheran Children and Family Services than just food. You can develop a friendship, you can receive skills. Even if you just come here as a volunteer, I shouldn't say even, volunteers are very necessary. But when you come as a volunteer, you are going to learn a set of skills. They taught me some about computers, taught me how to make different kinds of appointments and how to check supplies. I learned how to interview properly, and it was just magnificent for me. And then I started working after that. I kept working until I retired. So I was able to get close to going to job interviews. Lutheran Children and Family Services is it's very important because you need somebody that you don't have to worry about your kids crying at night. So many places the kids are crying at night, and there's no need for that. There's got to be somewhere that you can go. But that's what it did for me. It let me give to my family. And then I also, in turn, I have given to different charities and things like that as well.
I have 2 children from my previous marriage. Connor is 13 and Brandon is 11. And Kevin has a daughter, Rachel, who's 21.
God put it into our heart to welcome a foster child into the home. We had done some research and we weren't really making much headway, so we felt, well, this just wasn't God's plan for us right now. So then about a year later, things kind of started falling into place. We had friends who had been fostering through LCFS, and so we started making phone calls, and before you know it, we were signed up for classes. Our licensing agent came to visit us, and I told Jill, I said, when she comes here, I know she's going to ask us to take a child right away. So she started telling us Braden's story.
So what we were told about Braden was that he was in an abuse situation, and his, who they thought was his father's girlfriend, was living with them and had been abusing him and his half brother. And it ended with Braden sustaining a traumatic brain injury. He spent 3 weeks in the hospital, and thank the Lord, recovered and had a year of extensive therapy after that, where they did occupational therapy, behavioral therapy, speech therapy. He really kind of had to relearn a lot of things we were told. And during that time, he just made an amazing recovery, and thank the Lord, he's just perfect now. The funny thing is when we were on our way to meet Braden, Kevin says, well, I'm just going to throw the car seat in the car just in case. And I'm like, well, that's crazy. We're going to have to meet a few times so he can get used to us. And he said, well, I'm just going to put it in the car. I said, okay, whatever. And the caseworker says, okay, well, we need to plan on what to do from here. And Kevin says, well, we're ready to take him home today. And she's like, oh, well, that's never happened. Like, I got to make some calls. And he's like, well, you better call whoever you need to call because we're ready. And so she's like, oh, okay. So they made a bunch of calls, and they said, okay, we've gotten clearance. So, but I tell you, the services that Braden got prior with all of his counseling that they were already involved with did an amazing job preparing him for what was going to happen, because he literally came right into our car and said bye and waved goodbye, and off he went with us and literally got into our house, and it was like he had lived there forever. I think LCFS was a shelter from the storm because they really walked us through every step of the process, good, bad, or indifferent. Whenever we had a snag or a question or a concern, there was always somebody there to answer our question, to walk us through, to help us, and just make sure that we were successful in being the best parents that we could be. Thank you for Braden.